Great. Why don't we get started? And whoever's joining late can join late. So welcome and thank you all for being a part of the third year of the Care Grant program. Congratulations. I'm David Nelson, the Deputy Director of the Office of Strategic Outreach and Partnerships here at the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and our office oversees the Care Grant program. We're thrilled to have you on board as partners in our mission to foster equitable access to the essential benefits and protections for New Jersey workers. As you know, New Jersey boasts a rich array of benefits and protections designed to support the economic stability of our workforce. However, disparities persist in access to these resources, affecting individuals based on factors such as income, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, and language proficiency. The Care Grant program has been created to address these inequities head on. Your participation in this program is instrumental in realizing our shared vision of a more just and inclusive New Jersey. And together, we are hoping to make meaningful strides towards a future where all workers and employers can fully access the benefits and rights and protections that they deserve. So thank you for your dedication, and we look forward to collaborating closely together this year to achieve our goals. So for returning grantees, our team is excited to continue our partnership. And for new grantees, our team looks forward to working together this year. We recognize that this post-award session is a long day, so we tried to build in breaks along the way, but there's a lot of information to cover. So please feel free to take the time you need to grab a drink of water or use the restroom or just step away for a few moments. We ask that you just keep your mic muted unless speaking or asking a question. And our team will keep an eye on the chat for any questions, concerns, or comments that come in as well. And finally, we will be sure to provide a recording of the morning session and the afternoon session next week, as well as a copy of the slides. So just a quick overview of the day. We're going to start the morning with a brief overview of the Care Grant and DOL, mostly for some of the new grantees who are joining the program. After, we will head into our first training on the program, on the Paid Family and Medical Leave program. That will be run by Holly and Rebecca. We will then have a break for lunch. When we return for the afternoon, we will do grantee introductions and important grants management information. That information will be critical to ensuring that you're successful in the program. Since this year, cohort has 24 organizations and collaboratives, we're going to break up the afternoon a little bit and do grantee introductions and a little bit of grants management, and then return to grantee introductions. We're likely to do introductions in 3 waves. And then finally, we will head into breakout sessions. We will be pairing new and returning organizations and collaboratives together for some unstructured time to discuss the grant program and share tips and lessons and share work plans for the year. And as always, we'll be sure to save some time at the end for any questions and answers. So before we jump into the day, I just want to take a moment to introduce the Care Grant team. As I mentioned, I'm David Nelson, the Deputy Director of the Office of Strategic Outreach and Partnerships. Our office is responsible for administering the Care Grant program, but we also play a role in coordinating other cross-divisional outreach work on behalf of the Department of Labor and oversee a federal grant on the child care workforce, as well as some other projects and initiatives for the Department of Labor. So next, I will hand it over to our teams to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm going to hand it over to Holly just to introduce.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Holly Lowe. I'm the director of our office. It's really great to be with you all today.
Caroline?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see our returning and new grantees. I'm Caroline Woodrow. I will be working with you primarily on your contract as well as your monthly expenditure reports. Any questions, financial or fiscal? Lance?
Morning, everyone. Lance Tracy. I'm on the programmatic side of the grant, so the quarterly program reports, anything with print orders, things of that nature. Nice to see everyone.
And my name is Rebecca. I'm a policy manager with the department, and I help make sure you guys know what you need to know about these programs so you can share information with the communities you partner with.
Great. Thank you all. Right. So just some information about the Department of Labor for those of you who might be new to working with our agency. we are dedicated to protecting our workforce, strengthening our businesses, and promoting the dignity of work. 5 areas of work at the department. There's really 5 areas of work that make up our mission. It includes income security. So this is the 3 wage replacement programs. So unemployment insurance, temporary disability insurance, and family leave insurance, which provide cash benefits to workers who lose their jobs through no fault of their own, or are unable to work because they are sick or injured, caring for a family member, or bonding with a new child. So as you know, these are the programs that are a big focus for the CARE Grant program. An additional income security program that the department oversees is the Disability Determination Services, which helps individuals who are disabled and cannot apply for cash benefits through the federal, helps people who are disabled and can't work apply for cash benefits through the federal Social Security Disability Program. Another area of focus for the department is worker protection. So all workers in New Jersey, including immigrants and refugees, have protections under the law, and our wage and hour division enforces many of the work rights that the CARE Grant program funds to do outreach on. Additionally, we have a workforce development focus. So the Division of Workforce Development is responsible for New Jersey's workforce services, including vocational rehabilitation services, veteran services, and more. And the division oversees the one-stop career centers throughout the state, which offers a variety of programs and services to help employers meet their needs to secure talented workers. We have the research and information focus. So our Office of Research and Information is New Jersey's source for economic, labor market, and demographic data. And finally, we have an employer and business service focus. So our Division of Employer Account staff help employers throughout the state maintain compliance with unemployment insurance and disability insurance laws, while our business service representatives provide services like connecting employers with our statewide network of resources and referrals. So many of you are familiar with the program, but we wanted to sort of just level set for folks who are new to this grant program. So the Cultivating Access, Rights, and Equity grant was established in 2022 to seeks to increase New Jersey workers' awareness of and equitable access to key programs, including earned sick leave and related work rights, and the paid family and medical leave benefits. And then in 2023 was expanded to include unemployment insurance as well. Research suggests that awareness is improving, but workers' lack of understanding of these benefits prevents them from taking leave, especially for workers of color and workers who make less than $100,000 per year. Many workers learn about state benefits and protections from their employers. However, employers can intentionally or unintentionally give incorrect information that limits workers' ability to take paid leave. Similar barriers exist in accessing earned sick leave and work rights. So for example, interviews with workers needing sick time reveal they were not made aware of their right to take earned sick leave by their employers. And research suggests that workers, particularly workers of color, fear job loss, which deters them from taking leave. The CARE Grant was designed in part to address this lack of understanding, but it was also designed to meet requirements under the law as well. So the Temporary Disability Benefits Law mandates that the New Jersey Department of Labor allocate funds to conduct outreach and disseminate information to employers and employees on the paid family and medical leave benefits. Additionally, the New Jersey Earned Sick Leave Law requires the New Jersey Department of Labor develop and implement a multi-language outreach program. And then finally, after feedback from previous grantee cohorts, for the 3rd year of this grant program, work rights was added as an area of outreach. We've learned that as grantees have done outreach on earned sick leave and on paid family and medical leave and unemployment insurance, when you talk to community members about their job and their benefits and protections, they often have other questions as well. So we're really excited to expand the grant program for the 3rd year to include a general work rights category. Okay, so the program has a few objectives, which are I would just want to highlight as we're starting this 3rd year of the grant cycle. The stated objectives of the grant include increasing equitable access, understanding, and access to New Jersey's paid leave and unemployment rights and benefits. Based on the data, we know that there are access challenges for specific communities in our state, and our equity focus aims to change that. Another goal is to fund community-centered, culturally relevant, and language-specific methods to leverage the vibrancy and the resiliency of New Jersey's diverse communities. And in doing so, we aim to build the capacity of community organizations, service providers, and employers, and other partners to share this information. The department also seeks to develop and distribute effective outreach and education materials in English, Spanish, and other additional languages to help New Jersey's language access needs. And finally, we seek to learn from communities we partner with about how New Jersey Department of Labor's outreach, education, and communications on these programs can be improved, and to continue to build our understanding of access challenges that workers face to inform our efforts here at the Department of Labor. Overall, though, the New Jersey Department of Labor doesn't think of this outreach program as a one-way conversation from the Department of Labor to community members and your community organizations, but we see it as a partnership with you as community-based organizations to better understand the impacts of the department's programs and rights. So we have recently completed the second year of the CARE Grant program, and I just want to highlight some impacts that we've seen from the grantees in the second year. Organizations engage in a variety of activities, from tabling to counseling to community review of translated outreach materials. In the second year, through one-on-one outreach, such as trainings, intakes, webinars, counseling sessions, and community events, grantees were able to reach more than 55,000 workers. And this does not include any outreach that was done through mass messaging efforts such as social media or advertising. And as a part of the department's efforts to build the capacity of community-based organizations to provide information and guidance to workers on paid family and medical leave and work rights, the department trained and grantee staff members participated in trainings, and 140 people at grantee organizations went through some form of training with the Department of Labor last year. In terms of support for claimants, it's difficult to capture the true impact in terms of the number of claims or complaints filed, because these programs are often a point-in-time need. Some workers may learn about the program and their rights from a care grantee, but may not need to access them until a later time, and a grantee just may never find out about that. But we're doing our best to sort of measure that and capture that information as we sort of continue to evolve the program. But for the second year of the program, we had grantees support more than 890 TDI FLI claims. They provided support to more than 455 UI claims, and they supported more than 335 people with accessing earned sick leave. In addition to the data that the care grantees have shared with us throughout the second year of the grant cycle, worker stories and experience have also been shared with us. We think it's important to highlight these stories, both the successes and challenges, as it helps the department to administer the programs. So I'll just share a couple of them. This one is from Hoboken Public Library, and our biggest success story was assisting a single mother with reopening her UI case. She had applied in January 2023, but never followed up with the application. When we logged into her account, she had been approved for UI, but never certified. We were able to get her in contact with the customer service center at DOL and got her case reopened. She stated that this assistance was life-changing, as it was at this moment in her life, she was able to use the money to support her childcare cost while looking for a new job. And then I have a second story here from the Children's Home Society of New Jersey. So after my presentation on the 22nd of November, a mom reached out to me to discuss her applying for unemployment insurance or temporary disability leave insurance. We met, and she expressed how she felt excluded from her job and how she might how it might be due to her pregnancy. She trusted me with her story and was grateful that someone who spoke Spanish was available to explain the different ways the Department of Labor might be able to help her with her situation, especially because she is pregnant and soon can no longer work. I think she felt represented and heard. So yeah, we wanted to sort of give you an overview of how the grantees have been successful and what their efforts have sort of manifested in the second year of the program, and just provide some more information about how the Department of Labor thinks about this program and the other services and rights that the department enforces going forward. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca and Holly to jump into the training on the paid family medical leave system. So Rebecca, Holly.
Great. Hi, everyone. We just have to get our slides up. And in the meantime, I'll just again say it's great to be here with you today. So I'm the director of our Office of Strategic Outreach and Partnerships. I've been with the department since 2018. And we started planning for this program pretty much as soon as I started. And we got a little delayed by the pandemic, but we rolled out in 2022. And it's really so exciting to be here with our third cohort of care partners. So this presentation is going to cover temporary disability insurance and family leave insurance, which are the benefits that our department administers. We call it paid family and medical leave. Sometimes we call it paid leave for short. And we're also going to cover these state and federal laws that are what gives a worker the right to return to their job after their leave. And later in the grant year, we will have trainings on unemployment benefits and work rights, including earned sick leave. So we're going to go through the whole presentation. You can feel free to drop questions or comments in the chat as we go, but we're going to do all the Q&A at the end. We're going to have about 30 minutes for that. So again, put your questions in the chat or jot them down, and we'll cover them then. And like we said, this presentation is recorded, and we're going to share out the slides. And you're welcome to use this recording for training your staff. And we do want to note that this slide deck and this recorded training are for internal purposes only. We have a slide deck that you're going to be able to use for outreach in your communities. There are some slides in here that are specifically directed to you as care partners as well, and those are internal, not meant for public outreach. We have these slide decks available in Spanish and additional languages, as well as the rest of our outreach materials. We also want to note that we have a slide deck for paid family medical leave that's specifically for employer outreach. What we're going through today is more centered on worker outreach, but we touch on employers a little bit as well. Okay, so finally, I just want to say, as you engage in your outreach, as you utilize the slide deck, we always welcome your feedback. And we want to hear how it's going for you and the types of messaging and tactics that are working best for you. Okay, so let's jump in. We just want to note as we kick off that the reason this law exists, the reason we're all here and we're so excited about paid leave is because we all need time to give and receive care with our loved ones. The United States is unfortunately without a national policy for paid family medical leave, and we're the only advanced, quote unquote, advanced economy in the world without one. But in New Jersey, we're lucky. We do have this as a state program, and we're actually one of 13 states. We have to update this slide because a lot has happened. There's now 13 states that have paid family medical leave programs, which is fantastic. And we know that paid leave supports our health, the health of our families. It advances economic security, productivity at work, as well as gender equality in our state. And paid family medical leave is also helpful for businesses. There's been a lot of research in this area, and overwhelmingly, we know at this point that these programs help businesses. They support employee health. They boost morale and job satisfaction. They improve retention, which reduces turnover costs. Paid family medical leave also increases labor force participation, especially for women. And here in New Jersey, this program allows small businesses that can't afford private plans to compete with larger businesses. Just a quick note to say, make sure you are muted I hear a little bit of background noise, and I wouldn't want someone to not realize that they're not muted. Okay, so New Jersey paid family medical leave is made up of temporary disability insurance and family leave insurance, like I mentioned, and those are the programs that our department administers. But it also includes state and federal job protection laws, which are very important. We're going to talk a little bit about those laws here today, but we're also going to have a more in-depth training on them later in the grant year. But, you know, we know that a worker, when they want to take their paid family medical leave benefits, the ability to return to their job is very critical. And that's why we want to integrate that information. Okay, so paid family and medical leave in New Jersey can cover the following life events. It can cover your own physical or mental illness or injury. It can cover pregnancy and recovery from childbirth, bonding with a new child, whether it's a newborn, an adopted child, or a foster child. It can cover caring for a loved one who has a physical or mental illness or injury. And it can also cover coping with domestic or sexual violence. Now we're going to talk about the requirements. All of these have to be met in order to be able to receive these benefits. So first of all, your employer has to be covered under the law. Most New Jersey employers are covered. These are the same employers that are covered under unemployment insurance law. Employers must participate in temporary disability and family leave insurance or provide their employees coverage through a private plan, and that plan has to meet all of the state requirements. So it has to be at least as generous as our state programs. The federal government is exempt, meaning if you work for the federal government, you're not covered under our state programs. The same is true for local government, but only for temporary disability, okay? This is why we have this challenge of employees of local school districts, for the most part, are not covered by temporary disability because those school districts and other local government entities like counties and municipalities, they have the option to opt out of temporary disability. They don't have that option with family leave insurance though. So these covered employers, again, the majority of employers in our state are required to participate, and they have to set up payroll contributions for their employees, and employees see that on their pay stubs. And they also have to make their contribution, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. If employers don't set up contributions, though, an employee can still apply, because if the employer made a mistake and they neglected to set up the contributions, we can help them address that. Okay, so next, the employee has to meet these eligibility requirements. First of all, they have to have earned a certain amount of money with the covered employers. This can be from multiple employers over what we call the base year. We look back at about roughly the past year and a half. We have these earnings records on file here with the department through employer reporting. Sometimes an employee has to provide us with additional information if they have more recent earnings that we weren't aware of, or if for some reason our records are incorrect. But in order to qualify, those earnings have to be a certain amount. You have to have worked 20 weeks, earning at least $283, or you have to have earned a combined total of $14,200 in the base year. Again, that's about the last 18 months. You can see those earnings requirements that I just mentioned. They're on our website. We just keep the slides evergreen, but that information is available on the website. We like to note, because we're so close to Pennsylvania and New York, that generally, if an employee is working substantially outside of New Jersey as like for their job, they're generally not covered. But we do still encourage folks to apply just to be certain. A valid Social Security number is required in the application. That is the current statute in New Jersey. And I will say that it is unfortunate because we know there are many hardworking New Jerseyans that this prevents them from being able to apply for these benefits. So we like to share that up front to ensure folks are aware of this requirement. Individuals also have to meet the definition of an employee under the law. This is really about ensuring that the person is classified as an employee, or they may not be eligible. If you're an independent contractor and you're a properly classified independent contractor, you're not going to be eligible for these programs. You have to be an employee with an employer making those payroll contributions. There is something called misclassification when an employer incorrectly classifies someone as an independent contractor, and then that person isn't eligible for these programs. In that case, that worker might still be eligible. And you can learn more about misclassification on our website. So next, what are the benefits that an employee can receive from paid family medical leave? So it's 85% of your average weekly wage up to a maximum. And right now for 2024, the maximum weekly rate is $1,055. Again, we have the current year's information on the website. For temporary disability insurance, you could get up to 26 weeks of benefits, and that must be certified by a medical professional. For family leave insurance, you can get up to 12 weeks of benefits if you take them consecutively, those 12 weeks in a row. Or you can take your family leave insurance benefits intermittently, so in pieces of time, whether it's pieces of days or weeks. But if you break it up, you get 56 days total, which is 8 weeks. So these programs are funded by employers and employees in New Jersey through payroll contributions. For temporary disability insurance, both employers and employees are contributing to the cost of this program. And again, workers see those contributions in their paycheck deductions. For family leave insurance, it is solely financed by worker payroll deductions, and employers do not contribute to the program. We also wanted to note for 2024, for temporary disability insurance, there is no worker contribution. The rate is 0% for this year. We know people have encountered that in their outreach. It can be a little bit confusing for workers, and they get worried if they see no temporary disability contribution in their pay stub, but they can still be eligible. It's just that the fund did not need contributions this year. Okay, so we wanted to touch on the requirements that an employer has. They have obligations under these laws. So employers must display our temporary disability and family leave insurance posters in the workplace in an area that's clearly visible. They also have to provide written notice of these programs when an employee is hired, or when an employee requests information, or if an employee says to their employer, I need to take leave. The employer is obligated to share information about these programs at that point. The employer is also obligated to report their employees' quarterly earnings to the state. We do advise employers to keep track of notifications that one of their employees is receiving these benefits, check for accuracy, and report discrepancies or incorrect payments. But the employer does not play a role in the employee's application. It used to be that they did, so some of you might have experience with these programs years ago, prior to 2019, but they changed the law in 2019, and now the employer does not have a piece of the application, which has sped things up a bit. The employer can be helpful in ensuring that their employees have access to these programs. They can keep their employees informed. Sorry, I have a little glitch with my screen here. They can keep their employees informed. We have an employer toolkit that they can use, and they can share resources with their employees. They can assist employees with their application, but again, it's the employee's responsibility to submit the full application. They can direct employees to our website to file a claim, make sure their employees are clear on the process. They can also pay their employees the difference between the benefit rate, which is 85% of average weekly wages, and the regular wages. So essentially top off the benefits. And the employee would indicate this on their application that their employer is going to be doing that. And employers can also become familiar with the state and federal job protection laws and ensure that they're following them. It can be confusing for all of us to understand how the benefits and the job protection fits together. And all of us, including employers, should make sure we're clear on how the different laws and benefits work. Okay, so now we're going to review the different life events that temporary disability and family leave can cover. So first, you can take temporary disability to care for yourself. If you can't work due to a physical or mental health condition, including pregnancy and childbirth recovery. With pregnancy, it's typically the last 4 weeks prior to the due date, but it could be sooner if there's complications. And recovery is typically 6 to 8 weeks. And again, these are certified by a medical professional, and you can receive up to 26 weeks of temporary disability benefits in a 1-year period. Next, you can use family leave insurance to care for a loved one, okay? Sorry, I'm having this glitch again on my screen where I can't see. So you can care for a loved one who has a physical or mental health condition, or a loved one who's coping with domestic or sexual violence. Again, the medical provider is going to be required to certify these claims that the loved one is in need of your caregiving. And for family leave insurance for caregiving, it can be up to 12 weeks consecutively or 8 weeks intermittently. And we want to note, you'll hear us saying loved one a lot when we refer to who we can care for, who is family under the law. We say loved one because the law is very generous with the definition. It can be a child that's biological, adopted, foster, or stepchild, a spouse, including domestic or civil union partners, parents, siblings, grandparents, any blood relation, chosen family, and just anyone that's a close association and the equivalent of family. So you'll hear us say loved one a lot, or chosen family. So next, we are going to talk about how this all works for new parents, because when you're having a baby, you're connecting temporary disability and family leave insurance together. And that new parent, typically, the typical benefits can be up to 24 weeks, depending on how the birth goes and how the recovery goes. An individual having a baby could get 4 weeks for pregnancy leading up to the due date. Many folks choose to take those 4 weeks. Some work right up until the end. Then you get 6 to 8 weeks for recovery from childbirth, 6 weeks for vaginal birth, 8 weeks for cesarean section. Then you can access 12 weeks for your bonding time. If you decide to take it intermittently, it's fewer weeks. But we lay this out here to help you understand that birthing parents, mothers, really can get this 12 weeks of benefits when it comes to temporary disability and family leave. We created a great tool. We call it the Maternity Leave Timeline Tool, in partnership with the Office of Innovation, because it is tricky to understand how temporary disability and family leave work for pregnancy and bonding. This tool is easy to use. You go in, you punch in your due date, you answer a couple questions, and it prints out a timeline for you to understand your maternity leave. So that's definitely something you're going to want to share when you're doing outreach with expecting mothers and parents. And we have that information on our website in our toolkit for you. We also just want to point out that both parents of a new child can receive those family leave bonding benefits within a year of the child's birth, adoption, or foster placement. The parents can decide to take those at the same time, or they can take them separately. Many parents take them separately to help ensure childcare coverage for their new child. And again, for family leave insurance bonding with a child, it's 12 weeks consecutively or 56 days intermittently. So next, for coping with domestic or sexual violence, An individual or their loved one could actually use family leave or temporary disability insurance, depending on the situation. So family leave benefits for coping with domestic or sexual violence can cover activities like seeking medical attention, therapy, victim advocacy, or legal services. Safety planning or escaping abuse, such as staying in a domestic violence shelter, attending or preparing for court. We want to note for family leave insurance for coping with domestic or sexual violence, the individual must apply by paper. We have a technical limitation with our system. So folks have to use a paper application for that. People can also get temporary disability benefits if they have an injury or mental health condition and it's certified by a medical provider in connection with domestic or sexual violence. We have a webpage dedicated to these types of claims. You can see the shortcut link there, myleavebenefits.nj.gov/survivors. And so encourage you to take a look at that page, which has all of this guidance on it. Okay, so next, a word about unemployment. So if you are talking with an individual who's currently unemployed, but is having a baby, or it turns out they need to care for a loved one, and those needs make it so they're no longer able and available for work and therefore not actually eligible for unemployment insurance, they could be eligible for family leave or disability during unemployment. These programs are detailed at this link here. And a worker can also apply for unemployment if they're laid off while they're receiving their paid leave benefits. There's more information here. So essentially you can move between the programs. The rules are a little bit different for family leave or disability during unemployment. There's sort of a blend of TDI, FLI, and unemployment, and the benefit rate is the unemployment rate. But you can get more information at those links. And we wanted to note that you know, we know there's folks who work multiple jobs or who just work part-time, and they can all access these benefits. Employees with multiple jobs can receive family leave benefits even if they only take leave from one employer. So say they want to stay with their other part-time employer, they just can't exceed their usual work schedule in their other job. This is helpful for a parent who, you know, was bonding, but really wants to continue working part-time with one employer and then take leave from the other to bond, or for different scenarios. And then employees with multiple jobs can take family leave benefits from more than one employer, right? They would get partial benefits from each employer. The benefit rate will be based on the wages from the employment from which they're taking leave. So we wanted to make sure you all understood that for a worker who's injured at work, temporary disability insurance does not apply. Temporary disability is for non-work related illness or injury, but workers' compensation benefits do cover work-related illness or injury. And if a worker is injured on the job or thinks they are ill from their job, they should notify the employer immediately. And then the employer's insurance carrier will determine if the worker is eligible to receive workers' comp. If they're determined not to be eligible, they can file a claim with us. And you can learn more at our workers' comp page, which is listed there. And then while the worker's appeal is pending with us, they may qualify for temporary disability insurance benefits. But if they end up getting workers' comp, they are going to have to return the temporary disability funds to us. Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Rebecca now, who is going to wrap up the remainder of the slideshow. Looking forward to the Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you, Holly. All right, so now I'm going to share some tips on applying that you can give to workers. So the first is that it can take a number of weeks to receive a decision about an application, so it's best to plan ahead to the best of your ability. It definitely delays the process if the worker doesn't provide all the information and requirements up front, because we'll need to do some back and forth. So to speed up the process, do your best to make sure you have all the requirements filled out, and we do have application videos online that a worker could view ahead of time to see how to answer some of those questions and learn more about the online application process. We do recommend applying online for several reasons. The main one being that it prevents you from skipping any important information that you might need to provide us for us to assess your claim. But workers can apply by mail or fax on a paper application if that is better for them. A trusted person can help a worker fill out an application. That could be a family member, that could be you. And for temporary disability insurance, a worker can list a representative on their application to receive claim information. And that could be, again, a family member, that could be you as a grantee that's helping them. We also recommend to workers that they follow up with their medical provider if a medical certification is needed for their claim to ensure that they submit their portion of the application, because we cannot review an application until we receive the medical provider certification that they either are medically unable to work or they need to provide care. After a worker applies, we recommend that they review our "What happens after I apply" page. This is an easy way to understand the different claim statuses that we have online, and can show folks what they can expect about the process once the application is submitted. Here's some contact information that can be helpful for a worker to find out more. So first, we have our call center information. You might have had an issue getting through in the past year or 2 years. It definitely has been hard to get through, and there's been really long wait times. We've certainly made vast improvements, and most days the wait times are only a few minutes. So we still so if you've had a bad time getting through in the past, we recommend you try again. Still, we are our busiest on Mondays and then on Tuesdays. So we do recommend calling Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But you can call any day. Our call center menu is in English and Spanish, and we have Spanish-speaking agents. So the claimant experience, the caller experience is the same whether you speak English or Spanish. And for other languages, we do have a language line to provide interpretation. This is just some more contact information. Our fax number, our contact us form is here. We also have resources for hearing impaired customers. And if someone has an issue with the debit card, your benefits are paid on a debit card. There's no direct deposit. If you have issues with your debit card, we have more information on our website, and this is the bank's number that you can resolve your issues with. Okay, so we've wrapped up the cash benefits portion of this presentation, the temporary disability and family leave insurance programs that we administer. As Holly mentioned in the beginning, these cash benefit programs do not provide job protection. However, an employee's job can be protected under state or federal law. The Department of Labor doesn't administer these laws, but it's so important that a worker knows and knows if their job is protected in order for them to take leave. Just to note, if you're eligible for cash benefits and not for job protection or vice versa, you can still access them. So you can still apply for cash benefits whether your job is protected or not. But of course, it works the best when your job is protected and guaranteed when you get back from leave. So this is a quick overview of the job protection rules we're going to talk about today. The eligibility requirements are different than they are for the cash benefits. So these are based on employer size and how long you've worked there. So first we have the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. I think when we think about paid leave, sometimes we call it FMLA because this is like a federal program a lot of people know about. But when we say FMLA, we specifically mean this job protection law, which is enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor. New Jersey also has another job protection law that covers a bit more than FMLA does. So it covers the New Jersey Family Leave Act. This is enforced by the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. And then we also have the New Jersey SAFE Act. And I'll go into details about this later, all of these in the next few slides. But an overview of this information can be found on our job protection page. So the first is the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. So as I said, this is enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor. Under the FMLA, you can receive up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave in a 12-month period. You can use this to care for your own illness or injury. You can use this to care for some family members, so a spouse, child, or parent with a serious health condition. So this is a lot more specific than our broad definition of family. You can also use this to bond with a newborn, newly adopted, or foster child. So you can start to picture how these jobs might how this law might overlap. And with our cash benefit programs. I should also mention that to care for your own illness or injury, that also includes pregnancy and childbirth recovery. I'll talk about how this overlaps a little bit more in a few slides. So like I said, eligibility for job protection for the FMLA is different than eligibility for our cash benefit programs. So all these requirements need to be met, or an employer is not required to hold the employee's job. So first, the employer has to have 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius of the work site. This also applies to government entities of any size. The employee must have worked there for at least 12 months and 1,250 hours in those past 12 months. The employee has to give the employer 30 days notice if their need for leave is foreseeable. So for example, in a situation of pregnancy, if you have a general idea when your due date is and you go out several weeks before, you can sort of predict that that's foreseeable. Next, we have the New Jersey Family Leave Act. This is enforced by the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. This provides employees up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave every 24 months. This can be used to care for or bond with a newborn, newly adopted, or foster child. This can be used also to care for a family member who has a health condition. The definition of family member is broad, just like it is for family leave insurance. So this is anyone you consider to be family. You can also use this in some COVID scenarios. So if you need to provide care or treatment for a child, if their school or place of care is closed due to a public health emergency. But we're not going right now, that does not apply because it needs to be a public health emergency. Again, just like FMLA, the federal act for New Jersey family leave, all requirements must be met or an employer is not required to hold an employee's job. So for the New Jersey Family Leave Act, this applies to employers with 30 or more employees worldwide. It applies if an employee must have to work there for 12 months and 1,000 hours in the past 12 months. There are some furlough exceptions, but if that comes up, we'll work with you on that. The employee does have to give employer notice if the leave is foreseeable. There are some exceptions. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about how the paid cash benefits and the job protected leave combine, because it can be really confusing. There are 4 different laws and programs you need to keep in mind. This is all laid out on our maternity new parent handout that I'll link in the chat in a little bit, but I'll walk through it right now as well. So during pregnancy and recovery, you can receive your cash benefits through temporary disability insurance. Like Holly mentioned, this is if you need to care for yourself for your own disability. That includes being pregnant and recovering from childbirth. Then once you're recovered and you're physically and mentally able to go back to work, you can stay out and receive benefits to bond with a new baby. And that's under family leave insurance. Those are cash benefits. At the same time as you're receiving your temporary disability insurance benefits for being pregnant and giving birth, your job could be protected by the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, which is enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor. That's 12 weeks. And then when you need to bond with your baby, when you're receiving family leave insurance to bond with your baby, you could be receiving job protection under the New Jersey Family Leave Act. These each provide 12 weeks of benefits, so you could receive, in theory, if you're eligible, up to 24 weeks of job protection while you're receiving your cash benefits from the department. This is a very confusing thing. It's very nuanced. There is no expectation that you fully understand this right now, especially if this is your first time hearing it. If you're working with pregnant people, we are happy to work with you on this, and we have some tools to help figure it out. But the main takeaway is to know that your job could be protected while you're receiving cash benefits from us. The last job protection I'll talk about is the New Jersey SAFE Act. This provides employees with up to 20 days of unpaid job protected leave to cope with domestic or sexual violence. So you can see how this might align with the New Jersey Family Leave Insurance when you're receiving benefits to cope with sexual violence. This generally applies to employers with 25 or more employees and government agencies. The New Jersey Department of Labor doesn't enforce this act. We just own the labor poster. If an employer violates this act, the employee has the right to take private legal action. And we have more information, and you can see the full law explained on our labor poster that's on our job protection webpage. While our cash benefit programs don't provide job protection, they do have there is anti-retaliation language in the legislation. So it is unlawful for an employer to retaliate against an employee for taking or seeking to take cash benefits. Retaliation can look like a lot of different things. It can be firing an employee, but it could also be reducing their salary, increasing their oversight, changing work responsibilities, excluding them from meetings or other settings. And if retaliation occurs, the employee can take private legal action. I'm seeing some questions that are coming up in the chat. We'll make sure to get to them in the Q&A portion. But I just want to call out Kelsey, way to go for catching this. TDI, FLI, their cash benefits, their insurance programs, that's the I, and FMLA and FLA, Family and Medical Leave Act, and New Jersey Family Leave Act. Those are the job protection. So way to go, Kelsey. Okay. Another work right protection that is certainly relevant to folks who are taking leave is the New Jersey law against discrimination. This prohibits discrimination and harassment and has several protected classes. So this includes things like protections for folks based on race, ethnicity, gender. It includes pregnancy protections, breastfeeding and chest feeding protections, folks with disabilities protections for them as well. So you can imagine that someone who's taking leave might also be vulnerable to experiencing discrimination based on their need for leave or related to their need for leave. So it's really important that, it's really important that you're aware that even if leave is not being violated and there's something else fishy going on, there are protections in this state, and we can connect you with our partners at the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, who can help file complaints related to that. So yeah, we'll probably have a presentation that goes more in depth on this law and how to file a complaint. Okay, so we're going to transition from the slides that are meant for external outreach to workers that you might use or modify for your own purposes these next few slides are dedicated really to you guys as care grantees. They're not meant for external outreach. We're going to be talking to you as partners here. So yeah, just keep that in mind, but you can share this information with anyone you train. So we're going to give you some advice on how you might help a worker apply for temporary disability and family leave claims. So the first is just to encourage clients to review the website, myleavebenefits.nj.gov, and show them the application videos on our website. This can really prepare them to make sure they're providing accurate information, which can help speed up the application. And to that end, on our website, we have resources for mothers, new parents, birthing people who can really help explain the nuances, because it's really complicated as you're learning. It can be really complicated, but it is manageable and many people do it, and we can help them through it. So these tools are ways to do it. You can use care funds to help people complete their applications accurately. So that is a great way to ensure access. Please note, applications are currently only available in English, so providing any translation and interpretation services to that end could be really helpful. Our temporary disability insurance application, so the application if you're pregnant, recovering from childbirth, or you have a physical or mental health condition, you can list a representative on the online and paper application. This person can obtain claim information for the claimant or provide information to the department. So if someone calls in, we can only give them information if they're the claimant themselves or if they're listed as a representative. So this representative could be a family member. It's often a family member, but it could also be you as a care grantee who's assisting them with their claim. Right now, for the family leave insurance application, the caregiving application, or the bonding application, listing a representative is not possible at this time, but you can still help them apply. After a client applies, it's helpful to show them how to use our online claim status tool. It did just get a pretty substantial upgrade, all cosmetic, but it really helps make the claim status feature clearer. So you might, if you've logged in a few months ago, it's going to look different than if you logged in now. So you can get there from logging in our homepage, and then there's a click check your claim status button. If a client needs more information, you can connect them with our various communication points of communication. That includes the call center. I already talked about this, so I'm not going to go too in depth. I mentioned that there is English and Spanish options. This is a note about our claim processing system. We know it can take a while for us to process claims. It depends on how many claims we have. It can slow down when we have an influx of claims, and we know this can be a challenge. Something to keep in mind is claims are processed on a first come, first served basis, and when a claim is submitted, an individual is now in line. In general, we can't have help claimants skip the line or anything like that, but if you're having a significant amount of issues with a claim, or there's a dire situation, you should definitely reach out to David or Lance, and we'll do the best to help you. David will provide contact information. Well, we already did, but we'll give you that contact information. We recommend that you help claimants file online. There's a lot of different reasons why that's beneficial. It provides claimants immediate confirmation that we received their application. If you mail or fax it in, it takes a while for us to process that we've even received it. So this provides immediate confirmation that we did. It also prevents claimants from accidentally skipping questions. We encourage that you help claimants follow up with their medical providers for when medical certification is needed. If a provider takes more than 10 business days to submit their information, it can delay a claim. So it's really important that the medical provider quickly follows up. Some of this is, I think, a little redundant to the tips we give claimants, but I think it does bear repeating. It can take a number of weeks to get approved or denied. To speed up the process, it's important to fill out the application accurately and completely. We do make every effort to reach a decision quickly, but wait times can be long when the NJDOL is working through a large volume of claims, and claimants should plan ahead as much as they can, both in terms of their finances and expectations. We know that is like a really hard ask, but it is just what we're working with right now. Applications can be started early and saved, but they can't be filed until the first day of leave. This applies for all situations. You cannot file a complaint until your leave starts. So be sure to help claimants remember to submit the application if they draft it early, to officially submit. Our application guides explain this process. So this applies if you're applying online. Okay. And yeah, we're nearing the end. We are working every day to improve the claimant experience. We know some claimants have a really great experience and it's pretty seamless, and that is the majority, but there are some times where claims can be delayed, and that is really challenging. We are in the process of building a new claims processing system, so the application will be more modern and look differently. We are testing components of the application. This is part of our partnership as care grantees with you, is to help connect us with workers to test some aspects of this application. So we'll be reaching out about that, but just know that we are working on this new application. And we're also partnering with the Office of Innovation. They're a government agency sort of entity to build tools that improve claimant experience, such as the maternity timeline tool, our new claim status page, improving our call center and what it feels like to call in. We are making improvements with them. We're excited for you to meet our partners there, because you guys will help them learn what new tools and resources can be helpful. We have quite a few outreach materials on these programs in multiple languages. Our care website is really the hub for outreach materials for all programs, so we definitely encourage you to take a look there. And yeah, right now we are going to transition to questions. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see your faces, but please put your questions in the chat, or you're also welcome to unmute if you want to ask your questions.
Rebecca, there was a question earlier that didn't get answered, so I'm just gonna flag it right now. It was that if an individual has an ITIN number, is he, she still eligible? I think this is for the benefit.
You need a valid social security number.
So the answer is no,
So the answer is no.
unfortunately.
That is not something that's legislated, unfortunately. It's not a decision the department can make right now. I'm seeing some questions. Yes, the cash benefits question we answered. This presentation will be shared as well as the recording. Okay, I'm gonna read Hugh's question out loud on job protection for maternity leave. If the mother has to take time off before the birth, same month, is that when the clock on the 12-week protection starts, or does it only kick in after the birth when the bonding period begins? This is a great question. So job protection, the 12 weeks under FMLA, the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, start, I'll share my screen. Okay, bear with me. This is our new parent handout guide. Prior to someone's birth, prior to giving birth, if someone needs to go on bed rest, often it's certified for 4 weeks before. That's pretty standard, but it could be more. If you go on leave, that is when your job protection starts. That would be under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. So if you're covered under that law, that's when your job protection starts. Then you can remain on job protected leave after you give birth for a total of 12 weeks before and after while you're recovering from childbirth. That is like when you physically or mentally are not able to return to work. That's the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. So you have up to 12 weeks, including before and after.
And the doctor, just if I could jump in, the doctor determines when the employee is cleared to return to work. But we say it's typically 6 or 8 weeks, depending on the type of birth.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then the bonding job protection doesn't kick in until you are recovered and can physically or mentally or medically able to go back to work, but you're not available because you're bonding. That's when it kicks in. Does that answer your question?
And that portion, that portion is covered under the New Jersey Family Leave Act, the bonding.
If you're just follow up there, so the way you described it there, it sounds like there's 2 sets of job protections, one for the medical part and the other for the bonding. Is that correct?
Yep.
Or am I misunderstanding that?
Nope, that's right.
Oh.
What's confusing is that some of the reasons that you could get leave under FMLA are the same as the reasons you could get leave under the State Family Leave Act. And a lot of times employers get confused and they think, oh, well, if you're taking FMLA, you're running down the clock on FLA. That's only true if it's for the same reason. Okay, if you're taking FMLA for your own medical condition, you're running down the clock on FMLA, on your 12 weeks of FMLA. But if you're then needing leave to bond with a child, that's a different reason. And now you have access to the Family Leave Act, 12 weeks. They call that taking them consecutively. You take FMLA followed by FLA. But if it's the same reason and it's just like your medical condition, you're running the clock down on both of those leave laws at the same time. And that's, yeah.
Yeah, and just to complicate things more, like the eligibility for all of these things are different. So in an ideal world, you have enough earnings for the cash benefits, and then also your employer is large enough and you've worked there long enough for enough hours to also receive job protection. That is not the case we know that excludes many New Jersey workers. So this handout kind of shows the idea. Am I still showing my screen? Can you see it? Okay, Oh, I wasn't sharing my screen the whole time. Hilarious. Okay. This handout, this is our handout. This shows like the ideal scenario in which you're eligible for cash benefits, as well as you are covered under these job protection laws. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. So you might be protected. You might work for an employer that has 40 employees, so you're covered under NJFLA, but not FMLA. So we will work towards helping you understand those nuances. We have many grantees here who got it and have it, so they'll be a resource to you, but I'm only an email away. So, okay.
I'll also note the maternity leave scenario is the most complicated typically. So that's why we have this handout. If it's your own medical condition, you know, or care, you know, caregiving for a loved one, or it's like the non-birthing parent bonding, it's more straightforward.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next question, but keep your questions coming in the chat. Kimberly asked if an individual for some reason delayed submitting their TDI claim and got fired from their job during that time, do they have any job protection rights? I think what you're asking is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if an individual has like a serious health condition that prevents them from working, so they're not working, and they didn't yet file their claim, do they still have job protection rights? Does that sound right? The answer is yes, because you don't need to be eligible for cash benefits to be eligible for job protection. So you don't have to apply at all. Your job can still be protected under state and federal law. Obviously it works, and obviously it works the best when you do have both. But yeah, so your job would be protected under the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, or if it's for a caregiving reason, the Family Leave Act. Does that feel like it answers your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yay. Okay. Angie's asking about if an employee qualifies for family leave insurance for caring for a family member that's abroad. That happens all the time. That is acceptable. I'm not 100% familiar with the medical certification process of a doctor that's abroad. I know there is a process, and again, this happens all the time. So I will get back to you on like what that specific, how that medical certification process might look different from that for that doctor. Holly, do you know any more information about that?
I'd like to confirm, but my understanding is yes, that doctors, medical providers in other countries do certify our caregiving claims, but we'll confirm. So
yeah, they definitely do certify. I'm just not sure what like the certification process is. So it's probably the same, but I'll get back and confirm with you. Hugh asked if a full-time employee goes out on maternity leave and wants to come back part-time for a period, can she part-time FLI during that period? Yeah, so you can take family leave insurance intermittently. You can take it days or weeks at a time, and many people do. Just keep in mind, if you do that, you only will get 56 days of benefits, or that's like 8 work weeks, as opposed to 12 weeks if you take it all in a row. And then you will need to, like, as you take leave, you will need to submit paperwork each time that you took those days. Anything you would add, Holly?
No, just you're still screen sharing. So you
Great.
didn't realize that.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
I did want to just share with all of you that when doing outreach and education, you know, you don't need to dig into all of these details, and it takes time to understand these programs, and we understand that. The most important thing is the real basic message to our residents that we have paid family medical leave in New Jersey. You should be aware if you have a need for yourself or a loved one, and you're having a new baby, or you know, bringing a new child into your home, and then you take it from there. Right? It's really, it starts simple, and then we understand that oftentimes, especially for new organizations, new care partners that are just learning about these programs in a more in-depth way, it can take a few months to really train your team. We're here for your questions to help you understand, and you'll encounter questions as you deepen your outreach efforts, and we're here to support.
Chris asked a question, can you touch on temporary disability for nonprofits and school districts again? Absolutely. So temporary disability insurance, the cash benefits where you physically or mentally are not able to work, that is optional for school districts or local governments, so they can opt out of participating. They cannot opt out of participating with family leave insurance, but they can with temporary disability insurance. Nonprofits are not government or not local governments. They have to participate in these programs as well. Anything you'd add, Holly? Jeff is asking about benefits protections available to undocumented workers. So just to reiterate, the cash benefit programs, temporary disability and family leave insurance requires a valid Social Security number to apply. So those are currently not available to undocumented workers. That is in the legislation. The job protection does not require a valid Social Security number. The law against discrimination, the Division on Civil Rights, they will investigate regardless of your citizenship status, and they probably won't even ask about citizenship status. So we'll have a more in-depth conversation, but your job can be protected regardless of citizenship status. There's also many other worker protections, which David mentioned in like the very beginning, that like in terms of minimum wage, overtime, all of that, misclassification, all of that stuff, we investigate and enforce regardless of immigration status. So undocumented workers have those rights in the state, and we investigate regardless. But specifically talking about, and we'll talk more about those in future trainings, but yes, again, cash benefits, you need a valid Social Security number, unfortunately. Let me know, Jeff, if that doesn't answer your question. And Holly, if you have anything you want to add, let me know. Cool. What other questions do we have?
I mean, I will add, like, and this, this just occurred to me, and I think we should share it in our materials. When you're caregiving for a loved one, we're not looking into that loved one's status. So keep that in mind. So if you're a caregiver and you're going to care for a loved one and you qualify for cash benefits and have a valid social, but the individual you're caring for does not, we're not looking into that. So just wanted to flag that.
What other questions do you guys have? Feel free to unmute, or if there's any returning grantees that have like any advice in terms of understanding this information, would love to hear from you as well. We have plenty of time.
I just have one more thing I wanted to share. You know how we had the slides that were more for you as care grantees when you're supporting workers who might be applying for these benefits? I just wanted to say, we know that not every grantee is actually going to be providing that level of support. And we just wanted to make that clear. Some of your organizations, your work plan is really just about outreach and education, and you're going to have to be making a referral if somebody needs a deeper level of support. We have other care grantees that provide what we call technical assistance, or TA, and are really assisting individuals on that deeper level that we went into on those slides. We just wanted to be sure that was clear.
And that would be true for like any of that information as well. If you're just tabling, you need to know the quick hits, and we have handouts that can support that. Can you get TDI if you're abroad? Yes, you have to be a New Jersey worker, but if you're like receiving medical care abroad, or yes, you can. You can receive temporary disability insurance if you're abroad. On the application, it asks for your mailing address, and that's where you would put the like international address. Also, can you get unemployment insurance if you're abroad? My guess is no, but we'll look into that.
Look into that one.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Can you expand on the application process for domestic and sexual violence? Why is it a paper application? Will an individual be able to check the process of their application online? Thank you for this question. So when the application was when the Family Leave Insurance Program went into effect to cover bonding and caregiving in 2009. And it was built in this dinosaur system that we're currently rebuilding. In 2019, it was expanded to cover coping with domestic and sexual violence. But the way that the application flow works is that if you apply for family leave insurance for caregiving, it's going to require medical certification. And not all family leave insurance claims have medical certifications. There's many different types of certifications that you can get for family leave insurance. A social worker can certify, a domestic violence shelter can certify, a clergy can certify that this person is coping. And so the paper application, so we can't do online because it doesn't allow, the current dinosaur system is very difficult to change and doesn't allow us to accept that type of application, that kind of documentation. So a paper application is required. In terms of if it's available online, I believe that eventually you can check your claim status online, but I do need to figure out, let me get back to you on how that might work. But we know that is like a deficiency, and it is something that in the new application, domestic and sexual violence victims and survivors will be able to apply online. Do you have if you have anything else you want to add, just let me know.
Thank you.
Anything you would add, Holly? But the more information about that is on our I'll put the link in the chat, and we can work on those types of claims together. Thanks, Holly. You beat me to it. What other questions do we have? Well, if we're done asking questions for the group, David, I'm happy to stay on just a little bit longer in case someone has like a one-on-one question for me.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Like, thank you all for attending the training. If you have any additional questions at any time, you can just reach out to our staff. You can reach out to anybody on staff, but Lance and I really help coordinate any programmatic questions here at the Department of Labor. So you can reach out to us individually, or you can email the Care Grant email address at caregrant@dol.nj.gov. And our team will hang out on this call for a little bit in case you had more questions, or if things come up, or if you want to just talk to us one-on-one or in a small group setting. We'll just hang out for the next few minutes. But we'll all return at 1 p.m. for the sort of post-award session. We'll cover some grants management details, and we'll set aside some time for you all to introduce yourselves and get to know your fellow grantees a little bit more. So thank you all for joining this morning.